G'day and welcome to another episode of the Offseason Radio. I'm Paige and I'm joined by Matthew Joyce. How are you, Matty?
Not too bad. Episode 4, it's going to be a big one.
It is, and of course, as always, Damon Jackman. How are you?
Howdy, howdy. Very good. Thank you, Paige.
And we've got a big episode today. Obviously, we're going to be speaking of Richmond, Collingwood and Essendon in our list reviews, which will be a big episode. And, of course, we roll through the Phantom Draft. So far, it's the 1st of October today, so it's the October edition almost. So we're going to be taking it off the September edition from scpage.com.au, which is where it's originally come from, and we'll be updating that throughout October as the national draft comes closer and the combined draws to an end, which has started today.
Yeah, it's some interesting stuff. I think they're going through the vertical leap and that sort of thing today. A few of the just more physical stuff rather than the skills, I think, start today.
Yeah, the big day for them is on Thursday. You've got the Nathan Buckley kicking test, the Brad Johnson goal kicking test, and the clean hands by Matthew Lloyd, and the 3K time trial. So, that's the beep test, my bad, which is going to be absolutely incredible. So, I'm looking forward to getting down there for that one.
I really want to see the beep test. I think that's really where you see where players have that determination to, push through walls and that sort of thing and run out games. So.
I think this year you're going to see a couple of times elapsed, I'd say. I think Billy Hartung, Josh Kelly, for me, are going to do very, very, very well.
And the time trial is, I think, the event where a lot of smokies come to the fore and put their name up in lights. Some of the players that mightn't be as skillful as the higher prospects coming into the combine.
That too, and we saw last year with Dean Towers, who ended up going as the first pick to Sydney in last year's first round. He was number one last year for the time trial and the repeated sprints.
Yeah.
So
Great
that
athlete.
tells you a huge amount about a player's character, but not only that, his ability to continue running out games, which is obviously so important now with the bench coming. I guess it's more restricted.
Yeah.
Yep. So versatility and the ability to stay on the park for longer is paramount now.
Even a few years before. I mean, Towers was a first-round pick, but Brad Harvey had an exceptional combine a few years ago, really ranking number one in a lot of things, including leap and stuff like that. And that basically resulted in him getting picked up by the Lions. And while he hasn't had the greatest time up there yet so far, but it really shows that even if you're not the most skilled, this really does make a big difference in whether or not you get drafted. And
obviously the athletic capabilities now are. It's something that recruiters probably 10 years ago weren't perhaps looking so much at. But given that obviously if you're athletic in the sense that you've got good agility, you've got a good running or vertical leap, you can obviously change directions quickly and you're a good runner, that's a huge base to work off.
And with a lot of the... to steal a phrase from Sydney, the no dickheads policy, the psych testing as well is very important, which they do a lot of at the combine as well.
That is something that I wish I could bring my invisibility cloak into, to sit in on those assessments and those interviews with players, because...
Have they detailed what actually happens? Like, what's involved? Like, do they just ask them a series of questions?
I think it varies between the coaches. So you basically ask what you want to know. I remember it was highly publicised that Mark Williams, when he was the coach of Port Adelaide, asked Dustin Martin after he said, he dropped out of school after year 9, I believe. He's like, so are you dumb? So something pretty abrupt.
Well, you get some bits and pieces. I mean, for example, last year, actually it was a couple of years ago, when Dyson Heppel was drafted to Essendon, one of the recruiters actually pulled out a piece of chewing gum from his pocket, still in the wrapper obviously, and said, sell it to me. Just something as left field like that. And then obviously you get with last year was quite publicised with Brodie Grundy and GWS when they were interviewing him and they asked, well, have you got any questions? And that's when Brodie Grundy said, well, why should I play for your club that has no culture, no history, a small fan base, it's been manufactured by the AFL and it's out in Blacktown, which isn't very appealing for me long term.
So he turned the tables.
And and that in return that stumped the Giants, and they did answer it, and by his own admission, he said they did answer it quite well. but they were very, almost something in that, not a smack in the face of GWS, but I think that would have given them a very good indication of just how cluey he is.
And he's a bit of a different cat.
A very different cat. Hey, look, he drove a pink Vespa around Adelaide and walked his cat, so I like him.
Speaks for itself.
But to start off, we'll be going to the Essendon review of the season, and Damon, you're covering that.
Yes, I am, unfortunately, because it was...
tough task.
Yeah, very tough to go through and assess their season. First off, how they travel in 2013. Well, I guess, the off-field dramas aside, they performed quite well, you'd say, probably in the first half of the season, and then in the second half of the season, they did fall away with the saga kind of, I think, weighing on their mind and psychologically wearing them down. I think due to this, it's kind of hard to gauge their overall performance.
Well, in 2011, they had a good first quarter of the season. 2012, good first half. This year, I think it was more 3 quarters. So maybe next year,
maybe they can go
if
all
they're
the
not
way.
gutted with all the sanctions and everything. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, they were booted from the finals, of course, and you have to wonder, if they did play Richmond, do you think they will? I think they would have beaten you guys, seeing as though Carlton did.
If Richmond played the way that they did in the Dreamtime game, then no chance, obviously. Yeah. But Richmond did do away with them fairly reasonably in round 23. What I'm more interested about is the lack of lobster that we had as a result of an early season bet that you had. Tell us about that, Damon.
Yes, early season bet. Well, when news came out, it was actually the same day that news came out, broke about Essendon being investigated anyway for their supplement saga, and I thought to myself, this is pretty big. This is like unprecedented in the AFL, and I thought, if they are going to be punished, they're going to be punished pretty hard, and I remembered what happened to the Storm in the NRL. They were stripped of their points and thrown to the bottom of the ladder, so I thought, I'll have a look at the wooden spoon odds for Essendon, and had a look, and they were $251. So I thought I'll put a sneaky $10 bet on that. And going into the sanctions, the night of when they were handing out the sanctions, a lot of people were like, yeah, come on, including yourself, Joyce, asking for when the lobster was going to be served up on a silver platter.
I wanted my lobster.
I wanted the lobster. I wanted at least a leg by the end of it, and didn't even get that. Yeah, so didn't come through, unfortunately. But back on course, I guess. With Essendon, I think they would have beaten Richmond, but I think beyond that, do you think they would have been a chance to beat Sydney?
If they played like they did in the first half of the year, maybe. But I think... Are you saying if this whole drug saga didn't exist at all?
If it didn't exist, because I think like in the past or the last month of the season, the home and away season, they were worn down and they were losing games just off their own foot, I think, and just their own mental ability, like they were just losing it.
I think if it didn't exist at all, they would have made the top 4, so they wouldn't have actually played Richmond. I think it would have been a different scenario. I think Sydney would have been in 5th position.
Yep. I think so.
Yep, that's a fair point. Expectations next year. Well, it's hard to sort of gauge at the moment, with they still don't have a senior coach with Hurd being outed, and we still don't know who's going to take the reins there. And, of course, having lost their first 2-round draft picks and infraction notices still hanging over their heads, that could potentially be given down by Asada. It's a bit hard to say what's going to happen to them in the short term and long term. Now, approaching the trade and free agency period, the fact that they've been stripped of the first 2 draft picks, does make it difficult to, acquire the high-quality talent through the draft. And as well as with the infraction notices, clubs I don't think are going to be that willing to trade with them this trade period. What do you think?
It's funny you say that because, it's well publicised. I am a Collingwood supporter, but I am also a Bulldogs member. And as a member of the Doggies, getting Crameri over to the Dogs comes with its warning. And if the Doggies are going to be prepared to trade their second round pick, which at the moment is 22, I think.
I think 22.
22. It's still very high. If you go back to last year's draft, that is still a first round pick. So you have to weigh that up. And I think more so what's going to be more interesting is to see that if the AFL, it should be done by this week, if not it'll be early next, if the AFL open up what we call the Essendon gate, that being the free agency period where Essendon players are allowed to walk freely from the club and move as delisted free agents and move freely to a club of their choice, and which is sort of it's a great initiative, I think, by the AFL Players Association, and the AFL have got a good backing for it. One thing I worry, though, and although I'm all for the karma that Essendon are going to come back and they deserve to cop what they've got and the rest, but I don't like the fact that there could be a very big possibility now that players or managers or recruitment managers and the like now start trying to speak to players and say, walk out, come to us for free. And that, to me, it's almost draft tampering.
Yeah.
And it's another box of worms that, again, you look at free agency last year, we had no understanding of it. We have more of an understanding this year. But if we open up this, it's another box of the unknown.
You need to weigh up how loyal the players are if they were to walk. So say Crameri walks to the Bulldogs, he would need to weigh up, is he more loyal to his new club, saying, well, we're going to perform better if we have a pick 22 as well to use, or is he going to say, look, Essendon did treat me well, I was taken a very late pick, and I think they should be compensated. So you need to see. I think it'll be an individual basis.
It will. It'll be play by play, but I reckon, they had a big dip at Dustin Martin at the final, at the 11th hour, didn't they? And they're very keen on Taylor Adams, but not really much they can offer up in the way of him. And I'm not quite sure.
Del Santo.
Del Santo, that could be a possibility, but they've got a very good spine, Essendon.
Yeah, they do.
They just need maybe another quick outside ball user that's going to complement the likes of Goddard, Zaharakis, Heppel, Jobe, the like.
Yeah.
And with the fact that they've lost their first 2 draft picks, I think they're going to be obviously looking to trade something in order to get back into the draft in the early rounds. Yeah. But what can they offer up?
Well, that's it.
Apart from Crameri, of course, and get potentially, if they get pick 22,
well, you've got guys like, for example, so obviously Crameri's the certain one. He's the first one off the rank that offers that ability to get back into the second round. Then you throw in, obviously, Pears is thereabouts. Myers has been very well speculated. It's sort of one of those things where there's not really much. We all know to get something good in return, you've got to give. And I don't think Essendon really have the quality of players that they'd be willing to part ways with straight away. Gumbleton as well, is thereabouts as well. And look, although Essendon supporters have been a bit, la-di-da about how the functionality about their forward line, if you lose Crameri, who, at best he's a second forward, but he's predominantly played as a third. Gumbleton's there as well. Where do you prefer to play Hurley? Is it back or is it up forward? It's probably going to have to be up forward if Gumbleton and Crameri go. Joe Danaher's still developing.
Still a baby.
There's not much after that.
Yeah, apart from that, I think they have to rotate Ryder and Bellchambers, bit part forwards. They're not genuine forwards.
Exactly.
Like they're ruckman forwards. So I think that's going to be the downfall of trading away Crameri and perhaps Gumbleton as well.
It'd be big if the rumours are true that Ryder does leave.
Come to Richmond, Ryder. Come on.
It'll be. I really can't see him doing it, but it would. Really, the fallout here could be pretty severe if Essendon don't dot the I's and cross the T's.
It would need to be done before Friday, surely, because that's the official opening of
trading
and free agency.
Free agency starts Friday, and Monday is the 7th is the trade period. And they overlap this year. Thank God.
Yep. And it's a lot shorter as well.
Exactly.
It's a week shorter.
A week. Look, nothing happened in the last week anyway. So
yeah. And heading into the draft, I think, as we just said there, it's pretty obvious that they need a key forward there to fill in, as well as maybe another inside mid to complement Watson, Zaharakis. Heppel's, he's developing his inside game year by year, but he's still an outside player, you'd think. So I think, their first pick at the moment is pick 44. One player which I thought who could be a little bit from left field, he's had a stint in the AFL before, Mitch Thorpe.
Curveball.
Would he last?
Look, I think what you get with Mitch Thorpe, now he's had an incredible year down there with Bernie in the TSL.
Captain coach.
And he's had a fantastic year, Obviously, the leadership that he's going to bring, he's much wiser. You've still got to remember, this is the same guy who was drafted at pick 6. There are credentials. Look, exactly. But look, with that aside, you've really got to be able to look at the upside. He's worked his way back. He's in better shape. He's much more suited to AFL football now, mentally, physically. It could be if they do lose Gumbleton as well. There's nothing bad in bringing a mature age key forward.
And he's got the leadership qualities clearly. If he's going to be captain coach, which he's done a great job at South Launceston. So yeah.
And the other player who was a success story from there was, of course, Jeremy Howe. So,
yeah, exactly.
That's good. Sort of, I guess, an example of the sort of players you can get from quality players from that sort of that league there. And another one I was looking at was Nick Holman from the Murray Bushrangers.
Love him.
Highly rated midfielder. Won them Vic Country's MVP in the under-18s and averaged 17 disposals. So I reckon he might be one to fit in there as a bit of an inside mid, maybe even push forward a bit.
He's actually got from what I've seen with him with the Bushies this year, he's actually, although he started his junior career mostly as that inside mid, one thing he was told to work on early in the year is his running patterns, and that has really increased tenfold. And we know with running patterns it means that players are able to spread better. He's increased his engine, so he actually is a quite well-balanced midfielder. I don't think he's as polished as those that I'd probably have ahead of him, which is probably why he might actually come down to that third round, possibly even fourth, but upside in him, I mean, you've still got guys like, we got Jackson Merritt, Elliot Kavanagh, those sorts of guys who probably, I would say, I think Merritt's probably had a better year than Kavanagh, but Kavanagh was rated really highly from the Western Jets, but I really haven't seen him come on in the way that I really hoped he would.
He did have his injury setbacks, though, didn't he?
He has had injuries, but next year's a big year for him.
Yep.
Now, Essendon are talking about the fact that they need outside speed and they need outside polish. That could be the answer. But he needs to have a good year. And Holman, going forward, I mean, it's work under a guy Joe Watson, who's an inside specialist and has balanced his game out now to be equally good on the outside.
And you're speaking of Jackson Merritt as well. I think that's one of the reasons why Essendon might really want to trade back into the second round because of Zach Merritt.
Well, he'll go early second round.
Yeah.
You can bank on that. The first half of the second round, if he's there by if he's taken after pick 25, that is an absolute bargain.
Well, I think that's why Essendon really want that pick 22.
It wouldn't surprise me to see them get that to really bring in, because what you're looking then in that second round is you're looking at those guys that are going to be sort of, obviously a lot of South Australian boys are going to bob up really early in that second round, and the quality of their forwards from the championships this year, when you've got Mitch Harvey, Luke Reynolds, I mean, it's still if the Bulldogs, I think the Bulldogs want to keep that pick. They're probably going to try and trade to get another second round pick.
Well, who would they trade though? That's the thing. They would trade for a second rounder and then
they would actually trade to get another second rounder to then give that to Essendon, because with that pick you'd be looking, they would absolutely relish a guy like Mitch Harvey, who's probably going to slip there.
Yeah.
And if Ryder does walk, just playing devil's advocate, do you think that they would change their, I guess, strategy going into the draft? Would they then look at a ruckman with their first pick? Are there any quality ruckmen that would last to pick 44, do you think?
Cameron is the only one.
You'd probably, one guy who he's going to be a cult hero at AFL level. From Tasmania, Toby Nankervis. He's the first person who comes to mind. When you've got guys like Apnis, Cameron's probably going to be maybe around there, but what you get with big Toby Nankervis, for me, he is a carbon copy of a Shane Mumford. He is a big boy. He is wide. He's built. Boy. He is as big as he is, wide as he is tall. He's so physical. He won their MVP as well in the national champs. But what you get with Mumford, Nankervis, is that the big T-Nank, as they call him. He's a goal-kicking forward. You can put him up forward and he will kick bags. He dominates. He probably needs to improve a bit more in his agility. He's a very good... you could probably, like I said, bit of a Mumford type, bodies up really well, really physical, doesn't mind body slamming a few players. But when he's up forward, that's when he's at his most dangerous. So if they did, then maybe Nankervis, even then, he might even be... You probably look at the rookie draft too. And
speaking of little brothers, Aaron Heppel, also a chance, you think?
Aaron Heppel's probably...
in the third or fourth round, but...
You know what? I've actually got him more of a late to rookie.
Ooh.
He's probably been a little bit inconsistent for mine. Didn't feature for Gippsland in the finals. A bit on the outer. Not so much not his attitude, sorry, that came across the wrong way. I just don't think he's as developed as obviously Dyson was at the same age. Dyson was a gun.
Yeah.
And pick 10, he sort of really came in as a smoky. But I think what you'll get with Aaron is that he'd probably be a late pick. I'm not even expecting 60 picks to be taken this year. So I'd probably say a very good a Monty for the rookie draft.
The rookie draft.
Yep.
Yeah, he'll go somewhere.
He will be picked up. I'd be surprised if he didn't. That would be one of the biggest surprises to come out because, I mean, look, namesake, yes. Footballing ability, he's got it. He's just very inconsistent.
Yeah.
He needs to be developed.
Definitely.
And just having a bit of a sneak preview, we're going to be looking at it in depth later on with the Phantom draft. But you've got Essendon at pick 44 taking Nick Burke. What do you make of him?
I love Nick Burke. He's a good friend of mine, Burkey, but he's a fantastic character, very well presented young man. He's just a student of the game. He just he wants to learn. He loves football. He's really developed himself as an athletic winger. He's quite tall, so when you stand next to him, he's quite filled out. He's about 83 kilos. He's got a great leap, but his overhead mark's fantastic. When you're talking about marking around the ground, he's a very good kick as well. So if Essendon got Nick Burke, they would be absolutely wrapped because he will be fans will absolutely adore him. But he's a very good footballer and he can kick goals and he's very versatile. So he can play his best games through the wing, but off half back and rested sort of on a half forward. He's quite elusive.
And he had a very good prelim final in Geelong's loss to the Eastern Rangers.
Well, he was quite good in the first game against Calder, I thought, and he was probably one of their best on grounds. And he really stood up when the likes of obviously Lewis Taylor and Darcy Lang were out for the Falcons for the final series. But he, for me, I think Berkey's probably a third rounder at the moment.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me to see him go higher because we know how much AFL clubs now rate character.
Yeah.
And he's got it in spades. He'd be up there in the top echelon.
Definitely.
Alrighty, and that about wraps up Essendon and their prospects for next year. So now we're heading into a bit of a chat we had with Zach Webster from Glenorchy.
So we're joined here by Zach Webster from the Glenorchy Club in Tasmania. First off, welcome, Zach.
Thank you.
No worries. Congratulations on being invited to the National Combine. How'd you take the news?
It was pretty exciting, actually. So I didn't really know if I was going to get picked to go or not. So, once I found out, I was pretty excited.
That's good. And you've had a great year for Glenorchy down in the TSL. How have you found your footy this year?
With Glenorchy, I've sort of played a bit better than went away with the Mariners. So, I thought probably one of my best years, I reckon.
Definitely, and you were named as one of the captains for the state-side, and the National Combine would have been a thrill. The National Championships would have been a thrill. Can you tell us about your experiences at them this year?
Yeah, no, it was definitely a different role. So last year as a 17-year-old, when I was in Mariners, I was pretty quiet and a bit shy around the older boys. So this year they were on to me about being more of a leader, being the second-year player and that. So we had a pretty quiet group, so I sort of had to change my roles up a bit and get around it, and it was a good experience. It definitely boosted my confidence.
And it was great to see Tassie take home the Division 2 title. Great reward for effort there. But how did you find playing with the likes of the Koljashny brothers, Eli Templeton, Brady Gray, and Big Tony Nankervis?
Yeah, they're all great blokes and great footballers. So they're going away to the draft camp too. So hopefully they get picked up.
And look, you unfortunately went through a bit of a family tragedy back in May. With your family home unfortunately burnt down. How did that affect you and your family?
It was a pretty tough time. So I was up in Launceston at the time when it happened, so I didn't really know what was going on. And then, so I've lived there like my whole life growing up and that, so it was pretty devastating. And my brother flew down from Melbourne and that, but we got lots of support, which was really good. So we're back on our feet now, so yeah.
And Adam Saunders told you that, if you weren't up to it, you didn't have to play, and he wasn't going to hold that against you or anything like that. But
yep.
Yeah, you ended up playing against the Rangers, and in my opinion, you put in an absolute captain's performance. How did you prepare yourself for that game?
Well, I sort of just try to not think about it really. I just sort of, I suppose playing footy is something I love. Just sort of got my mind off it a bit. So it was. I don't know really how I prepared myself. I just sort of went out there just trying to play my own game.
And your own game, as I said, you had the game of your life, I think. What was that like coming off that game after your own individual performance?
It was good to play well, but we got beat by a fair bit, so it wasn't really good in the end.
And look, on another note, you've seen your brother Jimmy successfully drafted to the Saints, and obviously made his debut this year. What's that been like for you, seeing him progress into the AFL and debut?
Yeah, no, it was unreal. We all got to fly over and watch him play his first game, so our whole family went over, and yeah, it was exciting times. It didn't really it's just like a dream, really. It was awesome.
And has he given you any sort of words of wisdom or advice, or is there something that you've learnt off him through his time going through the Mariners system and then into the draft combine and obviously onto an AFL list?
Yeah, well, he just says just train your hardest and do all the right things. And he said when he actually got to St Kilda, he's just didn't really think much of it because he didn't really know much about being in an AFL club. And he said you'd just be thinking like you're going to play AFL, but he said it's not like that. He said you just got to compete against your own teammates really to get a game, and that just got to work your ass off.
Yep, and as a footballer, your strengths are largely within your physical side of your footy. You know, you've got your toughness, your strengths, your leadership, and you're a clearance machine and a wonderful tackler. But what areas of your game do you think you need to work on going forward?
Probably my tackling, probably my composure. Coaches have been on to me about that this year, but yeah, probably my main thing is my composure, so I can get my skills right.
Yep, and ahead of the National Combine, is it an area in which you'll be hoping to excel at and an area that you're trying to put a lot of focus into?
Yeah, the coaches have been working with me with a few of my things, so like my ground gathers, below knees, clean hands and that, so that's the main thing I'm working on, and probably, my main things are my attack and that on the ball, probably my main strength.
Yep. And if you had to compare yourself to a current AFL player, who would you say your game style is most similar to?
I've had to talk to the coaches about this one. They probably think like a Matt Shaw from Gold Coast, so like a hard running half backman.
Yep. Oh, awesome. And lastly, who did you grow up following in the AFL?
North Melbourne.
And now a Saints man, and who knows where you'll be next year.
Yeah. Hopefully I get to go somewhere.
Well, look, hopefully for your sake we see you at St Kilda next year so you can meet up with your brother. That'd be a good football story, I think. But
that'd be awesome.
And I'm sure your family would appreciate that. They'd have to only go to one game then.
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us, Zach. We really appreciate it, mate. And good luck for the remainder of the year, and best of luck at the combine, mate. And we'll be fingers crossed for you on draft day, and hope you get somewhere.
Yep, cheers. Thanks for that. Thanks for the call.
Thanks again, Zach. And that was Zach Webster from Glenorchy down in the TSL. We wish him all the best at the combine, and hope that he gets picked up, because
I think he will.
Good lad, great lad. And now, obviously, we're coming into the part where we speak about the Mighty Pies.
Oh, no.
Sorry, I had to do that. Well, 2013, what a year for Collingwood. Wasn't the year that probably the members would have expected it to be. Just injuries, a few off-field bits and pieces, and probably was I guess you could say, looking back in hindsight, it was a step back for Collingwood this year, but probably a step back they needed to have. They blooded 8 new players in 2013. Obviously, the likes of during the off-season last year, we saw Dawes go out, Sharad Wellingham go out, in return 3 first-round picks in a row, which is just about unheard of in the first round. And when you look at the fruits of those picks, Brodie Grundy coming on towards the end of the year was just drove Collingwood supporters. Look, I can't wait to find out his new number, because I'm going to get it on my new jumper.
And I'm going to select him in round 1 in fantasy football.
Very good pick, definitely. But look, it was a season of mixed emotions. I mean, we saw Alan Didak come to it was the end of his career. The writing was on the wall quite early that he wasn't part of Buckley's plans going forward. Obviously, resided to the VFL. Andy Cracker the same. Jolly had his injury woes. Heartbreaking to see Ben Johnson suffer another injury. He did get back for a couple of games, but it was pretty much set in stone too that that'd be the end of him. But look, on the flip side, so much to come out of this year. I mean, we saw great development from Marley Williams for mine, who has just been a sensation for Collingwood. Really enjoyed his game. Coming off a back flank, he's got a bit of mongrel and he's got a bit of flair, and we like that at Collingwood. Ben Sinclair probably came into this year thinking he's probably going to be on his last legs. Had an inconsistent career at the Pies so far. I thought in the middle of the year he had this fantastic purple patch where his explosiveness and his run and drive from half back in that new position was really good. I thought he'd been usually utilised as a defensive forward, and obviously was a very good junior in the midfield coming through, but hasn't been able to really crack the midfield, but has really taken on that defensive role. Obviously, we saw Paul Seedsman, for me, was absolutely a standout. He's
one of my favourite Collingwood players.
He is absolutely... Not only is his character good, but his development this year was fantastic. And we probably thought as well that it probably wasn't... This year was going to basically be make or break for him. He needed to go to the next level, and he did. And he did well, and he ended up cementing his spot in the best 22. But he had a fantastic year. Ben Kennedy became a crowd favourite. He was fantastic. But a lot of development. And when you're talking about Sam Dwyer at 26 years old, gets a rookie opportunity, Collingwood supporters go, who the hell is Sam Dwyer? And then they see the performance that he put in from the first round to the final game against Port Adelaide, and how can you be stoked about that? He slotted in. He was actually finished the year as the number one goal assist player at Collingwood. So talk about an important avenue to goal. When he's not kicking them, he's setting them up. So very obviously added to the midfield depth too. And Kyle Martin, we didn't get to see too much of him, but had a fantastic year in the VFL. And when he did come in, he was quite instrumental. And obviously we saw Jared Witts for the first time. So 4, 5, maybe 6 years he's been on our list as a New South Wales scholarship holder. Finally came in, and he's probably still got a bit of development to go. Obviously, Brodie Grundy's probably going to be the preferred number one ruckman going into next year, with Darren Jolly now retired or delisted, depending on who you speak to. But
where do you think the club could improve for next year?
Wow. Okay, look, I think there was no doubt there were some teething issues this year. When Nathan Buckley introduced leading teams, that's ruffled probably a few feathers. I think, though, it's a learning process, and people have now got to remember that, it's been 3 years since Collingwood won their premiership in 2010. It is a totally different team. I mean, look at the elimination final against Port Adelaide. Not even half of the 2010 premiership side was playing. Yeah, it just goes to show now. I think this is Buckley's team, and Buckley's making his mark. And although you're going to have a couple of people, well, actually, most people will say that Buckley's ruined the team and he's doing this. It's, you know what? It's got to the stage now where, as professional footballers, they're going to have to adapt or leave. And I think where they're going to improve next year is, again, more games into their young kids. You've got Seedsman is probably going to have a breakout year next year. So much to look forward to in Brodie Grundy. Tim Broomhead didn't get to debut this year, but will definitely do so next year. Obviously, you get, Dane Beams was missing for the majority of the year. Lockie Keefe gets a full pre-season under his belt. Obviously, Ben Reid was up forward. That's something that's going to be interesting to see whether or not they recruit a forward to send him back again.
A Reid, maybe.
Possibly.
And just with, you spoke of before, Jolly, Cracker's another one, and Didak being delisted from the club. And there's rumours that Heath Shaw may be headed elsewhere, as well as maybe O'Brien. Do you think that Buckley will be shooting himself in the foot too early, getting rid of most of their experience and relying on the younger players? I
think it's probably important to remember that you can get rid of mature age players and you can, premiership players, but you've got to be very careful not to rip the heart out of the club. Because, look, Heath Shaw, and as a Collingwood supporter I can say this very easily, that he is very hard to like. Because you love him some weeks and you hate him the next, and his football bipolar is something that we've gotten used to, but it's to the point now where I think Buckley's beelined the situation. He's got to go. He, if he's not going to... It's embarrassing to see each week him having arguments with Nathan Buckley or Nick Maxwell and pointing at players. And I'll tell you, if you could get Supercoach points for pointing, God, captain him each week. He just, look, it's frustrating because we know what he's capable of, but at the same time, he's a nuisance. And given there is so much youth coming through this Collingwood side now, it's almost crazy to think a couple of years ago we won a flag, given how young the side is. You can't have that influencing players, and obviously Harry O'Brien will stay, 100%.
And with Heath Shaw, he reminds me a lot of Brendan Favola as a Carlton supporter.
Yep.
Having watched Bev over the years.
Yeah, good one. Yep.
It reminds me of that. You know, he's a player unto himself. He thinks he's bigger than the team in a lot of ways, and has arguments with the coach, and has a falling out with players. And as an experienced, mature player, Heath Shaw, you don't want that sort of example set at the club with the younger players coming through, because they'll come in and they'll think, oh, this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to talk back to our teammates. We're supposed to talk back to our captain, that sort of thing. That's not good.
And speaking of trades, who do you think you'll bring in if you're going to trade out these sorts of players?
Look, this is such a... Look, according to social media, Collingwood are trying to recruit everybody. We're going to bring back Muhammad Ali from the dead. LeBron James is looking to come over as well. So, honestly, on a serious note, I think Taylor Adams now is probably very much in the gun to come to Collingwood.
I would deny that.
Hey?
I would deny that. He's going to Richmond.
I don't think so. It's probably more so now that with the news breaking today that Buddy has chosen to play with Sydney next year. All of a sudden there's a lot of cash available at GWS. And given that Shaw's made it very known that he wants to play more midfield time, GWS would probably see that as an opportunity. And again, I mean, I guess with Adams, who's down at Collingwood again today, there's a lot to like about him. As for another player, you probably look, I mean, obviously there's been heavy links that Jesse White has been linked to the Pies. Look, there's something there. I'm not jumping through the roof about just looking at him, but I guess if it means one thing, probably Collingwood struggled this year was their forward structure, and Lynch probably was good for 3 rounds. Carlton more importantly, but apart from that, it was a failed experiment. It's the easiest way to put it, and he didn't offer that stability up forward as we thought he would. So bringing another forward, and that's why Ben Reid had to spend so much time up forward. We prefer him down back because he's obviously all Australian key defender. Jesse White would serve a purpose. He'd be able to play a bit higher up the ground, and we all know that Travis Cloke plays his best when he's kept closer to the square, and he's got that opportunity to play one-on-one, which you'd back him in every time.
And it's been documented that Karnizis is pretty heavily targeted by the Pies. Any other of Brisbane's players that might walk out?
I think with Karnizis, it's almost beginning to be, well, you can't have too many, because if this trade apparently that's going to go through between Collingwood and Sydney for Heath Shaw in return for Sam Reid, which is a bit far-fetched, I would say. You're almost looking at like for likes here. Karnizis is still 191, still that medium-sized forward, but you prefer him on a wing. Obviously, then you've got Jesse White. How do you fit in Jesse White and Sam Reid with Travis Cloke there, so on and so forth? Jackson Payne's still in the wings. So I think it's going to be one or the other. I'd probably say that Collingwood are going to end up with Jesse White and Taylor Adams, and I think that's all we're going to get.
And if Thomas does go to wherever and you get a compensation pick, you've got 2 picks in a row, and you might even get 3 in a row if, Shaw goes somewhere and you get a pick around that sort of area. That'll
be the most interesting one. It'll be with Taylor Adams, I guess, with the clubs that are interested being Richmond, Carlton, Essendon, Collingwood. So that's 5, isn't it?
Yeah, 4. Yeah.
4.
That's it, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's the 4. Yeah. So basically then it's going to come down to, well, what are you going to be able to offer? So if Collingwood have got picks ahead of all of those clubs, they've all of a sudden got first-round picks, they have the opportunity to let go of a premiership player who's had a successful career at Collingwood, is still 27, you still get a good 5 years out of him, so to speak. There's a lot of, I guess Collingwood have got more, I would say, more gambling chips at this stage. So, but if Shaw goes and we get a first-round pick for him, it'd have to be in that. I don't think Collingwood would let a contracted player go without getting something sufficient back. Yeah. And you see with these contracted players, not just with Collingwood, I'm talking across the entire league, when they're contracted, clubs have almost got to pay a bit overs for them. And that's just the trend we've seen. I mean, last year Chris Dawes went for a first-round pick. So when you're talking about a demand-wise, and I would probably say that I don't think Karnisis is going to come to Collingwood. I really don't. I'd be surprised if we got all three.
Yeah.
And in the same time, that's saying that Collingwood, in return, then are going to lose Heath Shaw, most likely to GWS, Dale Thomas, unfortunately, to Carlton, and perhaps Jackson Payne, who may be looking for... Look, he
maybe Bulldogs.
Didn't come on this year. Showed a lot of promise at the end of 2012, but was a bit mind-boggling that he couldn't crack a game in the seniors. But probably the only thing that's probably discredits him is that he's a very one-dimensional player. He's your lead-up forward. He's been tried down back. He showed a bit, but nothing that's really going to warrant him a senior selection, especially in the sense that he can't ruck when he's up forward. So, and that's why, obviously, Lynch was brought to the club, because at least he can offer that ability to ruck forward as well as in the middle.
And heading into the draft, who are the players that you think Collingwood will be looking at? Especially with the pick 10 and if they get pick 11. Like, with those back-to-back picks, will they go in with a strategy or just pick the best available?
It's hard. I mean, I guess if you read in McQuail's The Draft and you look at what Chris Pelton did when he was at Hawthorn, they actually didn't take the best available approach, which I would almost say shot them in the foot in the end, because they picked players on basis of need, based on ability. So I would probably say that when you've got picks 10 and 11 in this year's national draft, Collingwood probably need to bring in a very good inside midfielder. And when you're looking at, obviously, going forward, Luke Ball's 28 odd. He's not going to be there forever. In saying that, you'd probably look at then a Matt Crouch.
Yep.
And given he's 188, strong body, plays like a Joel Selwood, probably needs to develop his outside game. Nonetheless, it didn't have under 30 possessions this year in the TAC Cup, and was fantastic for Vic Country when he came back in after that broken hand. So someone like him, and then you probably look at an outside ball user and someone maybe with a bit of speed. So if Collingwood don't go for a Matt Crouch at pick 10, I'd probably say the perfect combo would be either Matt Crouch and Marcus Bontempelli at 10 and 11, or you'd go Lewis Taylor and probably Christian Salem for mine. So Louis Taylor's got the ability to play inside, very speedy midfielder, but then you've got that absolute kicking class. Who's the best kick in the AFL?
Over what distance?
Who's efficient? Who can always find a target?
Goddard.
There you go. Christian Salem's efficiency by foot is higher than any other player in this year's national draft. And when you're talking about the Aishas of the world, obviously Callies, those sorts of guys, Christian Salem's got the best kick. And you're probably going to see that on Thursday when he does the kicking test and the goal kicking test, because he's incredible by foot. So it might be that Collingwood will have that luxury to go inside, outside, or do they look at bringing in a forward? Do they take the punt really early on a Cameron McCarthy and pull a smoky? Because Derek Hines known for that. You could be... Don't trust Collingwood. You can't... Look, last year they took Tim Broomhead and he was probably a Monty for a second round, mid-second round, and he ended up going in a first-round pick, so...
Who knows? Yeah.
Exactly. And that now brings us to the Phantom Draft we've got, which is the September edition, and we're kicking this off now. We're going through just the 2 rounds. We may push it to 3, it depends.
See how we feel.
But look, we kick this off now. This is based on the exact draft order at the moment, so including the compensation picks and the like. So we're going to kick things off. Pick 1, GWS. It's synonymous. It's Tom Boyd.
Yeah, there's no debate for that, in my opinion.
Especially now, if Buddy doesn't go there, of course he's expected to sign with Sydney, you think they would definitely go with Tom Boyd.
And he's a once-in-a-generation player for mine. If you combine Nick Rewalt with Jonathan Brown, that's the only one I can really establish the sort of player that he is. He's an absolute ripper, and GWS will have an absolute keeper in the future. But pick 2, which is where this could get very interesting, because Melbourne, if they do trade it, but we're basing this on the fact that all clubs keep their current picks. What would you say that before we actually say who the player is, what would you say that Melbourne need?
A better midfield.
Anyone.
A good kick out of their midfield and line breaking.
You'd probably then have James Aish. And obviously from Norwood, he's been playing, a lot of people have said, he's quite slight, he's a bit light. He might be nimble, but he is bloody quick. And an elite kick. He and Salem, the top 1% of this year's combined, for obviously kicking efficiency. He is an absolute ripper. And he's also the best friend of Jimmy Toumpas. So probably a going forward, I'd say. And you've got to remember as well is that Jack Viney was living in South Australia while Todd Viney was doing work with the Adelaide Crows. So these boys all played together. You'd almost be a bit silly not to pick him.
Yeah, I think, honestly, he's the second best player in the draft anyway.
He was pressing claims for number 1 early in the year.
Definitely.
And pick 3, St Kilda. Damon, what's the go? What are they going to take here?
Well, you've got listed Josh Kelly, and I had him listed around the same because I had Aish there taken by Melbourne. So I reckon that's about spot on. And
there's the great thing you're going to get with Josh Kelly is his two-way running, and he's very quick each way. North Melbourne supporters will be absolutely kicking themselves because his dad Phil played 67 games for North Melbourne and retired due to a hamstring injury.
Oh, it sucks.
So could you imagine this year if they were getting both McDonald and Kelly? Jeez. Hard to fathom, but look, they're absolutely crying out loud for elite midfielders, elite runners, elite kickers, and he's a goal-kicking midfielder.
And running both ways is something that I think suits St Kilda much more than the next, which is the Bulldogs. With St Kilda, it's a lack of discipline, I think, is what the younger players have. And I think Brendan McCartney with the Bulldogs, he's really, stamped that into them, that they need to be contested all the time. And, Josh Kelly doesn't really need to know that. He already knows it. So
it's in his DNA.
Yeah, it suits the Saints better to have him there.
Yep.
And I would have said on talent, Matt Scharenberg, who is our pick for number 4.
Yep.
I think they're equal. But
it's funny you say that because I agree wholeheartedly. It's going to be very interesting to see what St Kilda do there, because what you get with Scharenberg, you get a Brendan Goddard. And with that, you'd say that St Kilda are going to finish towards the bottom again next year, and they'd probably be looking at Hugh Goddard, who is the cousin of Brenton. But to say the least, with Matthew Scharenberg at pick 4, the Bulldogs, he basically plays. I'd almost have them the other way around at the moment. What you get with Scharenberg is a player that plays a multitude of roles and very, very, very well.
I have him as the quarterback, the general in the back line, the half-back flank that really sets up play. But I don't think that's what the Saints need. I think the Saints need someone in the midfield saying, right, this is what we need to do. Man up your man, do it now.
Yep.
And they see someone like Kelly doing that, and it'll really, drag along the rest of the team.
He's very much an outside player, Kelly, but look, you have this debate with different people and they'll tell you different things about the importance of an inside player and the importance of an outside player, but they're just as important, and obviously the inside player feeds it out to the outside player, and if they're not a good kick, you're really going nowhere. So
I think the Saints, they do need some extra midfielders in there. If they're going to lose Del Santo, Montagna, they've only got, Stephen, Armitage
isn't a certainty to stay either.
Yeah, exactly.
It's getting dicey down there, but I would probably
Lenny
say
Hayes is the only one.
Yeah, I'd probably say Kelly. Kelly would end up captaining that club one day.
Yeah.
And obviously we had Scharenberg at pick 4 to the Bulldogs. Bit funny, I think they've got a lot of key position players. None that really stand out.
Yeah.
Obviously Roughhead, Grant came on really well. Jones has done nothing. If they get Crammery, that makes a big help. Minson, Campbell, those sorts of guys, but Scharenberg's just he'd play centre half back for the next decade, but also he can play that lockdown role. But he reminds me a lot of Grant Birchall in the fact that he can just roam that half back, but he can also play through the midfield and up forward. So he really is a Brendan Goddard type.
I think he'll be Bob Murphy's protege, and be
Yeah.
Bob Murphy 2.0.
Could be, very much so. And Gold Coast, now this is a funny one because they're pretty flush for positions all over the ground, but one area that they lack is that link play between the midfield and the forward line, and they have not got a bona fide half-forward flanker. They lack, and the best one, and it's a bit funny because we've got Jack Billings here, and he starred as an underage player last year in Oakley's premiership in the TAC Cup. A lot of people have been quick to say, no, he's gonna slide, and he's an awkward position player. He's not quite a midfielder. He's not quite a forward. But when you're playing off a half-forward flank and you're averaging 27 disposals a game and kicking at least 2.3 goals, I don't care what anyone says. Yeah. He'd basically be that almost a missing link for Gold Coast.
I think another one that could go here is Marcus Bontempelli as well. I think he's a bit more contested than Billings is, but I think it's the same sort of player. He does play along that half-forward line, and he does play quite well. He brings a lot of physicality as well, which Gold Coast, they'll lack less as they all mature, but I think you can never do away with physicality, especially as they approach becoming a final side.
Yeah, he's a different sort of player, Bontempelli, because he's that 191 centimetre
contested mark,
cousin of Nick Del Santo.
Yep.
Great contested grab, and plays as a winger. It's a bit. It's the same side as Pendlebury. So, but another one I thought that was going to go there that is probably going to slip now to West Coast at pick 6, and that is Dom Sheed. Now the Lark medalist this year. He is. If it had have been for a bit more foot speed, I would say he jostled for top 3.
Yep.
Possibly number 1. I rate him that highly. Now, a couple of people think that he's going to probably slide out.
You can't go past a homegrown talent as West Coast who need midfielders. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the speed which they really are lacking. They don't exactly have very
He's a
many.
goal-kicking midfielder.
I know, but they need pace. That's the one thing
do.
West Coast gets shown up for.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
Pace. But you can't go past the Lark medalist.
Yeah, and to think as well that when you look at Pritis, who's getting on, Daniel Kerr, who's probably going to go into retirement, who's their next big-bodied inside midfielder?
Scott Selwood.
He's almost probably better on the outside now.
Yeah.
Shuey.
Well, they got
Shuey,
Maston, Gaff.
Yep. And they're all
Gaff is
outside.
not an inside player.
He's the most outside there is.
Exactly. He's the seagull of a lot. But when you're looking at that, Dom Sheed will set them up for the next 10 years in the midfield there, and their list is much better than what their output was this year. So that could be a huge in. So someone like him, Dom Sheed, and he's AFL ready. He's 184 centimetres, 83 kilos. He roosts the ball for well over 50 metres and can kick him from all over the ground. So he's an exceptional talent. But this will be interesting, Damon. Brisbane, with so many outgoing players, how valuable is this pick?
Well, it's very valuable. Well, do they go for a forward or do they go for a mid? They're losing their younger players in the middle and a ruckman as well in longer, potentially. So who do you reckon they'll target?
There's not enough tall forward quality
to be taken that
pick.
early. Yeah, that's the problem. That's a good point. And I've got Ben Lennon here from the Northern Knights. Now, predominantly, everyone knows him mostly as a half-forward sort of player. Plays as a key position, but he's not going to be that key position player at the next level.
Could go to Gold Coast as well.
He could, exactly right. And Lennon, for me, what he demonstrated throughout the final series and towards the end of the TAC Cup was when he was switched into the midfield, that is when he had huge impact on games. Again, was racking up huge amounts of the ball, lots of marking throughout the wings and through the middle of the ground, and was able to finish in front of goal on the run from a set shot. So he's got the whole forward capabilities down pat. For me, he reminds me a little bit, not so probably a forward version, but Sam Mayes of last year. Mayes is a midfielder forward. You'd probably have them reversed.
Yeah.
Lennon is a forward midfielder.
He sounds very much like the player that they were hoping Karnisis was going to be. This year they played him, well, he was drafted as a forward and they played him in the NAB Cup in the middle. So he sounds very much like that sort of player to play in the middle, roam forward, kick a few goals and can mark as well. It'll be
really interesting because they're sort of in that patch at the moment, Brisbane, where everyone wants to leave and no one wants to go. And when you've reached that stage, it's pretty hard on the football club. obviously things are looking up with the new coach and all, but Ben Lennon, along with Sam Mays, would be two very good players that Brisbane would look forward to in the future. But rolling on to pick 8, and it's North Melbourne.
The gimme of the draft.
Yep.
Luke McDonald, father-son pick. He will go there because Gold Coast will very likely bid on him. Reminds me most of Brett Delidio. That's who I compare him to.
Yeah,
a utility, can play all around the ground.
That's the best comparison I've heard, actually.
80-metre player. He just runs 30 and then, runs 25 and bombs at 55.
Yeah.
Easily.
He's and people telling us, oh, do you think he's going to get to their second round pick?
Nope.
You've got no hope.
Nope.
I'm sorry, as much as I'd love you that to happen, it's just not going to happen. But moving on now to GWS with the compo pick. Damon, do you want to have a crack at this now?
Well, I had a crack earlier, and I pronounced it Cade Kaleidoscope. That was the easiest and closest I got.
Kaleidoscope.
That's his nickname.
Yeah.
It's his nickname now, but it's Cade Koljashi from Tasmania. Great Grant Birchall similarity. I've got someone different at this pick. Got GWS. It's more of a needs pick. Darcy Gardner, in my opinion, because
I can see that happening.
they really need their defenders, GWS.
Well, they took Plowman last year. They've got more. They're probably going to lose Bruce. They've got, I can't think of his name, Aiden Core.
They need I don't know, he just seems like such an imposing gorilla backman, Darcy Gardner, and that's what they like. I don't think Plowman's that. Plowman's more of a second, maybe even a third tall defender in my opinion.
He was probably the best. Plowman last year was the best key. It was the Darcy Gardner of last year. He probably hasn't come on this year. Well, I guess it's probably a bit much to expect that he would have come on really well,
player,
and same with Core. But it's a development thing for them. I probably wouldn't be surprised to see them take a mature age defender.
Maybe they could take Thorpe in the second round.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, whether it's going to be the second or the third round or something like that, GWS to me are lacking players within that 23 to 25, 26 age group bracket, and they'd have to source someone. I mean, even a Peter Folks that's just been delisted from Fremantle, they'd have to probably source someone like that. I can't see them at the moment not wasting a top 10 pick on a key defender, but something like that when they need some maturity. And Darcy Gardner's big and he's a very good player, but he's going to get found out at an AFL level.
You sure?
Straight away.
I think he's a competitive beast.
He is, but I mean, as in the fact development wise, he's not going to come in. Impact. He's not going to come in next year and dominate off the back. He's not going to do it. He's probably going to be. He's going to have his moments where he's going to come in and have some really good games against equally younger sides. But when you're asking him to line up on a Travis Cloak, a Jack Rewald, a Jared Roughhead, a Nick Rewald, you know what I mean. I guess for me, that's where I'd have him. But Cole Jashney, again, as you said,
amazing carnival in my opinion.
Incredible, all Australian as well. Was part of the AIS squad this year too, so good credentials there. And pick 10, as I said earlier, Louis Taylor. Look, a lot of people are saying we're not going to recruit another 173 centimetre midget. Yeah, we probably are. Mickey Turner's branded him as the best thing to come out of the Geelong Falcons in 15 years. Just think about that. Jonathan Brown,
Jimmy,
Gary.
Footy Factory.
You can go on forever here. You get the ultimate package with him.
Yeah.
Albeit the height. Height aside, you get everything with him. It's like Dom Sheed. If he had foot speed, he'd be jostling for number one, but he's not. And Louis Taylor, if he had a bit more height, he'd probably be the best all-round package. So
similar to Prestia in his draft year, in my opinion. Probably even better than Prestia.
Yeah, I'd probably have him ahead of Prestia just because he's probably got a few more tricks. Not in saying that Prestia doesn't, I rate him, but Lewis Taylor, for me, you get an inside midfielder, who is lightning quick on the outside, and Collingwood need that speed.
Yeah, you've only got really Sinclair at the moment. Sinclair,
obviously, Young has been injured. Harry O'Brien, when he's in, gets a lot of run through the midfield. It's sort of something that Dale Thomas is someone who we've really missed, and we're going to miss for a lot longer now. His speed and his breakaway line breaking speed is something that Collingwood have lacked.
Yep.
And that'll be an area that'll be... I mean, Sam Dwyer's not overly quick. You know, Martin's not overly quick. There's no one on our list who's overly quick. So we're talking about a line breaker. But here as well, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Collingwood take a bit of a bolter here in Nathan Freeman. And he's a Patrick Dangerfield type, so...
If you want speed,
exactly,
you got him as
exactly.
well.
So that's why I wouldn't be surprised to see. And
related to Kathy at all?
And what's that?
Not related.
Not related with the speed.
I hope he's speed wise he is. But look, he's 182, 85 kilos. Runs like the wind. He's got that. Nabs the ball, takes off.
If you've got that compensation pick, I wouldn't put it past you to take both speedy ones, both Taylor and Freeman.
Yeah, good point. That'd be something that I actually would like us to do. That'd be pretty good. But on to your boys.
I think you're dead on with this pick, Paige. Christian Salem. He's the exact type of player that Francis Jackson picks. He's an exceptional kick. He's a great character, and he's very competitive. And those are the qualities that Francis Jackson looks for, and what Damien Hardwick loves.
Yep.
It sounds just like Floston from last year.
It is. This would be a match made in heaven to get Salem.
I don't want to trade it away, but we need it if we want.
He's someone that actually had probably the most rave reviews from the AIS coming back. So that's pretty big there. He's obviously elite kick. Pick 12, Port Adelaide. I've got Marcus Bontempelli here. He's probably around that 10 to 15, but don't be surprised if he goes as high as you said, 5 or 6. So he's really on a development point of view, he could be absolutely anything.
And I have Mitchell Harvey going here. Very big bolter.
Huge bolter.
I just think South Australian boy, fantastic leadership and personality and character.
Well, we spoke to him a couple of episodes ago. He's a great guy.
He is. And just the type of player they need. I mean, you've only got Schultz down there, basically. So I think having a Kurt Tipper type would really rub salt into the wound of Crows supporters, for one thing.
Exactly.
And, I really, really rate him. And I think he's going to be a great pickup for wherever he goes. But I think he's going to Port.
It's not a bad selection now. Damon... I
was reading your write-up there, and you're about spot on. He sounds like a very, very exciting prospect, but the past few years, we keep going for midfielders. I know we need them. We do need an inside midfielder. We've only got... Well, Judd, he was an inside midfielder. He's now an outside player. He's lost his speed. It does go inside now and again, but we do need someone who's a specialist, and Murphy, I think, is the only one. Gibbs is still an outside player. I don't think he'll ever be an inside player. So it sounds about right. He's a decent player, but otherwise, I'd be probably looking at McCarthy maybe at this pick.
Yep, that's
for a tall forward.
Definitely, I can see that happening.
But with Crouch, I mean, what if in a few years Brad gets a bit homesick? Maybe Carlton could lure him over.
Oh,
they could
God.
lure across Nathan Ablett as well and hope we can
It'll be this one here. I don't know. I like it because I think he's got captain material written all over him. Very, very good athlete. Actually, athlete's the wrong word. Very good inside user.
A footballer.
He's a footballer. He's probably a 70s footballer stuck in a modern day's body. Runs where he likes. Probably outside game he's not there. But whatever, he's just such an exceptional inside player, and he's so hard at it. He racks up ridiculous amounts of the ball. It's pretty crazy. But pick 14, Geelong. They get a dream scenario here, getting a local boy in Darcy Gardner. And as we said before, Diz, he's pretty, he's quite developed. He'd probably get some good opportunity next year if he was playing for Geelong. And given, as we discussed, that you've got guys like Taylor, Lonigan, the like that are probably getting on down there. Now that Jack Watts has been snapped up, it wouldn't surprise me now to see them go for an athletic type in Darcy Gardner, who is a very versatile defender. Plays lockdown, can play rebounding, attacking. He's very good.
I mean, they've got Thurlow waiting in the wings, so I don't think that's their
biggest need. He's probably more
of
a... He's not a key defender, though.
I suppose he's more Henright-ish, but a bit more key defender-ish than Enright.
Yeah.
But
if he was available...
I've got Blake Acres going here, and I think he's a really left-field pick, and that's exactly what Geelong like to do. I think he could be like Jimmy Bartell, honestly, if he went and, having him to be mentoring for, a year or two, that would just be, sensational.
And pick 15, this is where we had Nathan Freeman. Thought he was a pretty good pick here, just to add to the absolute midfield depth that they're going to have. It'll be interesting to see what Sydney do here. I've gone the midfielder, the line-breaking midfielder, because I think they've got a lot of similar types in Jack, Parker, Mitchell, Hanbury, and the like, I guess. So he had something there. Now, Freo would be absolutely... they'd be partying all the way to 2014 despite losing the flag. Karen McCarthy at pick 16. We've got him here to Fremantle. Obviously, a WA lad. Exceptional forward. One of the most athletic forwards you'll see in a long time. Wicked leap. Great below his knees. Fantastic ability to kick goals, especially under pressure. And a beautiful set shot. Very reliable. So... pick 17. We're just rounding up the first round now. Obviously, Trent Dumont. He's probably going to be a bit of a bolter here. I'd probably expect him to go a little bit higher now. Incredible beep test. He's a very good runner. What you get with Dumont is that he's a very hard inside player, can play outside, and the great thing is he's been able to play off a half-back flank. He sort of reminds me a lot of Sam Mitchell in that sense. That he's very versatile. He's so quick to put foot to ball. Sorry, ball to foot. Foot to ball.
Yep.
There we go.
Put the ball. Runs a week.
So that'll be an interesting one to see, especially if Hawthorn keep their pick or not.
Definitely.
And just rounding up our Phantom Draft, because I think we'll leave round 2 for next week. Gold Coast's compensation pick, Billy Hartung. I've got him here. What do you think?
Yep. Perfect fit. Just run along the wings all day, and that's all he does, and really rebound off halfback. And I really want to see him in the beep test.
I'm a bit excited to see him here, but
run out the door.
I did say in my Phantom Draft that I maintain the fact that I have never had Hartung in my first round. I thought he was very much a seagull, very uncontested player. I thought he was a little bit one-dimensional in the fact that he could just play the outside wings and just got fed off everyone else. But since the TAC Cup finals, and since we saw him just absolutely dominate off half-back, he's now added that versatility to his... And what you see when he plays as a half-back flanker, his ability to take intercept grabs, his ability to take... He's always been able to take off, but what you see then is, again, an 80-metre player. He will just take 4 bounces all the way up to a wing, either look laterally and hit someone up with his incredible vision, or he's going to just send a bullet pass right inside 50.
And he was easily the Stingrays' best player in the grand final loss against
he was the only standout player for the Stingrays. So that really... And he kicked a fantastic goal as well. Took the ball from a burst out from the stoppages, took a bounce and then sent it inside 50 for a goal. So very good on his behalf.
Yep, and just to wrap things up, we're going to go to the Richmond review really quickly. It was a good team year for the Tigers, in my opinion. 0 people in the AA squad, but it was great having, not having Richo or Cochin just to carry the entire team for a change. Many improvers throughout the team. Dustin Martin had a career best season, as did Batcher Hooley, Steve Morris, Alex Rance, Daniel Jackson, and Matt White, with Jackson winning the Jack Dyer medal for best and fairest last night. And Matt White... What
a turnaround he's had.
Yeah, very big. I never would have put him in top 10 at the start of the year. And Matt White now looks very likely to go off to Port Adelaide, so on a very lucrative deal, in my opinion. I think it's 3 years for $350 a year or something like that. So very well done, Matthew. And the Tigers should be pretty well compensated with that price as well. Shane Tuck, the only one to hang up the boots after 170-ish games. And there should be a few young mids there that can take over. You've got Brad Helbig that never really got a chance in the midfield, who will very likely get a game there. Matthew Arnott, who had a great year, used to be averaging like 15 possessions at VFL level.
He's going to be one that I can't wait to see next year.
Yeah, Choco Williams really got into his year, and he bumped his average up to something like 30 disposals at VFL level, and then he got a senior game, and then he was very impressive. I think he's the long-term replacement for Jake King. And I think he'll do a very good job there. And Reece Conker should get more inside midfield time.
And Dusty's re-signed.
Everything's coming up. Richmond. Oren Stephenson as well. I think he might call an end to his career if Richmond pick up a ruckman in the
What
trade
if they
period.
get Jolly? What if they go for Jolly?
Not a chance. Very good improvements for Richmond. Best percentage in over a decade. They had the third lowest points against in the entire competition. That's behind Fremantle and Hawthorn. So that really shows.
Wow, there you go. And they beat those two as well.
They did beat those two. For
Interesting.
the second year in a row, they beat both grand finalists. The young guns showed really good promise as well. Floston, Ellis, and Arnott. And they actually had the most time in front for any side in the competition all season, which is quite ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah. Where they struggled, nowhere. Perfection. No, the inside 50...
Against Carlton in the first final.
No, the inside 50s throughout the year were pretty subpar. Lots of long bombs in, which really didn't suit the style that Richmond plays. They like to lock it in, and if opposition can easily spoil it somewhere, then that doesn't really suit the game plan. And endurance as well, and leadership, and just running out games. Finals being the basement for the Tigers next year. Top 4 being the goal, as well as 70,000 members, which Damien Hardwick announced is the priority.
Oh, I'm trying to be like Collingwood. That's cute.
Well, we actually get people to go to our games, Paige.
Righto.
Taylor Adams, Billy Longer, a tall forward target of the player targets, as well as a defensive coach to fill Justin Leppich's big shoes as he goes off to
that's a big one.
the Lions. We've got a lot of defenders to give up. I mean, Batchelor, Asprey, D, Griffiths are all very capable at AFL level, so maybe someone like St Kilda or the
it'd be
Bulldogs
interesting to see what Richmond do. They've almost got a surplus there.
Yeah, they do.
And none of them are going to be moving Rance or Chaplin.
No, definitely not. And even Grimes, when he's back, he's a lock in the defensive thing there. So, what do we have to give up? Them, looking for them. But the draft, Salem, I think, is the number one.
Has to be Salem.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's the exact player that Richmond needs. I hope Hartung lasts until Richmond's second pick, which I very highly doubt.
He's a Richmond supporter too.
Very good. They all are. But
This guy.
Francis Jackson's been in his ear as well. I hope he doesn't go at Richmond's first pick. I don't think he's worth that. I think Salem's the
too
perfect
high
pick
for him there. Yep.
Yeah, but you'd say that about Conker, who people were saying would go 20. So
yep, good point.
Yeah, I think that's about it. I think maybe a mature ruck like a Darcy Cameron, again, could go to Richmond or Nankervis or something like that. We really need another developing ruck, as Tom Derricks doesn't seem to have come on.
You could maybe look at taking Aptness with the second round pick. Would not surprise me whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that would be a very good idea, really round out the depth and really have a good developing ruckman at VFL level for Richmond's VFL standalone side, which...
that'd be exciting.
By the way, Pat Conton, previous rookie, and 2 other players. God, I wish I remembered them. Ed Barlow as well, and one other player. Forget who. We'll say next time. They're already signed to play for Richmond's VFL side. Adam Marrick, that's it. So they're very good VFL players. So hopefully the Richmond side is a lot more competitive than the Coburg-affiliated side that they had in prior years. But,
love it.
That's about it for this episode of Off-Season Radio, episode 4. We'll be back next week with some more end-of-season reviews, as well as some more Phantom Draft stuff and maybe an interview or 2.
Yeah.
So be sure to tune in then. All right. See you guys.
Catch you later.
Bye.